This is actually quite an amazing story because Rabbi Yaakov Haber, he was a Rav originally in Buffalo, and then he moved to Muncie. He was a Rav in Muncie, and at some point he decided, and his kids were not young when he made the decision, that he wants to move to Eretz Yisrael. It was like his guts were like, I must live in Eretz Yisrael. He said the story that he discussed it with everybody. Like he discussed it with all of his friends, Rabbanim, all kinds of people in America, and they're like, no, you can't do that. So he came to Eretz Yisrael on a pilot trip. He came and he asked his friends here in Eretz Yisrael and Rabbanim, and they were all like, no. And he says to Rav Scheinberg, he's like, I really want to move to Eretz Yisrael, but I discussed it with people here, I discussed it with people in Eretz Yisrael, and B'derech HaTeva, it just doesn't make sense. Everyone's saying that it doesn't make sense to live in Eretz Yisrael. And Rav Scheinberg is like, what does Derech HaTeva have to do with it? It's a mitzvah. We are obligated to have bitachon. We're obligated to step out of Derech HaTeva. We're obligated to have a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashlech al Hashem Yehavcha, v'hu yechal kelecha. Everyone's worried and everyone thinks about, how can I do it, or how can I make it work? B'derech HaTeva, hishtadlus, all these kinds of words, but Eretz Yisrael is a place of l'mal min HaTeva. Eretz Yisrael is a place of bitachon.
Welcome to another episode of the Homebound to Eretz Yisrael podcast, where we talk about all things Eretz Yisrael. Today we are joined by a very special guest, Rabbi Ari Goldwag. Thank you for being on our podcast today.
Sure. It's my honor. My pleasure.
Most of you know Ari Goldwag as a fantastic singer and songwriter, but many people don't know that Ari Goldwag is also a deep lover of Eretz Yisrael. Is that correct?
That is deeply true.
As all Jews should be. So, today we're going to talk about Eretz Yisrael and Ari's journey here and his experiences. So we'll just hop right in. Ari,
yes.
I guess you could just introduce yourself a little bit and tell us how you got to Eretz Yisrael and a little bit of your story.
Okay. Well, let's start with... I also, besides for being a singer, as people may know, I put out Divrei Torah on the Parsha and on Bitachon, and I always preface my Parsha podcast by saying you're listening to the weekly Parsha podcast with Ari Goldwag, recorded in Ramat Beit Shemesh, Israel. And so I've been doing that, Baruch Hashem, for 17 years now. 17 years. Broadcasting from Ramat Beit Shemesh, a Parsha shir, which Baruch Hashem has hundreds of listeners. And I say that not to plug my Parsha podcast, which of course you should listen to. But besides for that, I'm just pointing out that I mention Ramat Beit Shemesh in each of these podcasts. And I'm, trying to kind of, subconsciously say, hey, this is where you should be, where I am. But
It's product placement.
Yes.
They don't know. But...
They know. They know because I also get beferish, I talk about Eretz Yisrael a lot, and I talk about how I believe that everyone should be here. And I believe in guilt, and that's one of the reasons I'm here talking to you as well. But where does it go back to? Well, I would say that when this is part of it. It really goes back further. Maybe we'll get to that, or Mirza Hashem will get to that. But when I was about a year and a half, so my parents came to Eretz Yisrael for 9 months. Officially calling it Aliyah, but they came to, maybe it was a pilot trip, which took another, 20 years for it to actually start to not just be a pilot, but flying in. But so from the age of a year and a half until 2 1/4, I was here. I was in Gan here. I didn't yet speak neither English nor Hebrew, but it got in my guts. Like, this is where we should be. Like Eretz Yisrael. I was in a nursery school, and in America after I returned, and I still have the yearbook. I should have brought it, but I didn't. But in the yearbook, they asked each kid, like, if you could go to anywhere in the world, where would you go? This kid said Disneyland, this kid said Florida, California, And I was like, Israel. I also said, how many kids would you want to have? 100. I don't know if I'm going to make it to that, but I did make it to Eretz Yisrael. And I very much, I see it as something that my parents inculcated into me. And I have 2 sisters here. So 3 out of the 4 of us live here. I have a sister in Far Rockaway who wishes she could be here.
She will be.
She will, Bezrat Hashem. But really, you know, I came when I was 12. I came when I was 14 with Miami Boys Choir to sing. And when I went for high school, I went to Yeshiva Far Rockaway. So I was there from 10th grade on through third year Beis Medrash. And then I knew I was going to the Mir. That was the plan. And I said to my mom, I think I'm going to buy a one-way ticket. And she was like, what? I'm like, wait, I think that you raised me to buy the one-way ticket. So I didn't buy a one-way ticket. But I have been here since 2000 when I was a bacher. And then I met my wife here. My wife's from Seattle. And she also grew up with this kind of Tzioni in the heart, Tzioni balev, or maybe more. And we met, and we've been here since 2000. And lived in Yerushalayim for nearly 4 years, and then moved to Ramat Beit Shemesh 19 years ago. Is that correct? 19 years ago? Yeah, 19 years ago. And we've been here ever since. And anywhere I can scream it from the rooftops, you know, this is the place to be. Eretz Yisrael is the place to be.
So when you came in, you were showing me some interesting thing about your grandparents, your great-grandparents?
Both, yeah.
Both.
Yeah.
About how they actually came to Eretz Yisrael.
Yeah.
Way back when.
Yes.
So I'd love to hear more about that.
So sure. So my great-grandfather and my great-grandmother, who are depicted here in this, I don't know if you guys can see this picture. You want to hold it closer?
We'll get it right there in focus.
The couple on the left or on the right, I can't even. So that's Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak Streisand, yes, I'm related, and his wife Rachel, who are buried in Kfar Saba. And my Babi and Zaidi, Tzipora and Rabbi Yitzchak Goldwag. So they all moved to Eretz Yisrael in the 30s, to Palestine actually, which I also have here. I'm officially a Palestinian. This is my Bubby's declaration of Palestinian citizenship.
Yeah, let's show the people in case people don't think that we Palestine, we were here first.
Yeah.
Palestine.
And if you know, yes, Ari Goldwag is a Palestinian, as weird as that sounds, by virtue of my grandparents. So they came in the 30s. They were, you know, very frum, but they were staunchly Zionist.
Where did they come from?
They came from a town in Poland, which is now in Ukraine, called Brzan, which was also where Shwadron, Reb Shalom Shwadron, the Maggid of Yerushalayim, his family's from there, from Brzan. And so my Alte Zayde, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, he and his wife and my Babi and Zaidi and my Babi's sister, they all came to Israel, to Palestine in the 30s. And then actually in the early 40s, during the war, my Babi and Zaidi, my Babi used to say, and we can talk about this issue of not having enough money, but for basic necessities, which is not true today, Baruch Hashem. But my Babi used to say she didn't have enough money to buy milk for her baby, and they ended up moving to America. So my father grew up in America, in Brooklyn. You know that place?
I've heard of it.
You've heard of it. In Borough Park. My father likes to say Borough Park, BC, before Hasidim.
Ah.
So he grew up there, and actually my mother also grew up in Brooklyn. And then, but they always had this strong, you know, Eretz Yisrael, this feeling of Eretz Yisrael is the place to be. I don't know where my great-grandfather got it from. I'm curious to know. I haven't been able to dig it up, but he had that strong inside of him, and my Babi and Zaidi had that, and my father grew up going to camps that were like had that thing inside of them, and in the 70s my parents came here a few times, and I have an uncle who lives actually in Sderot, and he's been here since the 60s, I think. And me and two of my sisters, we always had this. Really, all of the kids in my family always had this like feeling of Eretz Yisrael is the place.
This is something that your parents instilled within you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So like, it reminds me of something where someone a few years ago called me, asked, I don't know exactly how they got to me or what they want. Oh, it was about like an interview like this. I think it was about an interview like this. And I said, they were talking about like convincing people to move to Eretz Yisrael. And I said, I think that the way to go, I mean, obviously what you're doing is great and you should continue, but is to hit the kids. Like, it's an education thing. Like, it should be coming from the ground up. Like, get them when they're bachrim or in seminary, or nail the couples who are living here for a few years, quote unquote, and convince them. Because like to start your life here, which is what I did with my wife. You know, we met here. All of my kids are born in Eretz Yisrael, Baruch Hashem. So like to if you nail it early and it becomes an education thing, that was my experience, was that I grew up with that sense from the age of 0 that like Eretz Yisrael, like where would you go if you could go anywhere in the world? Is like Eretz Yisrael. That was my answer. So like I think there's an education revolution that's needed.
By the way, I couldn't agree more. What I'm doing, like you mentioned, what I'm doing is b'diavad. I completely agree with that. Right. What I'm doing is if someone's grown up, if someone's an adult and they don't know that this is the place they should be living, we're dealing with a very b'diavad situation. Sometimes, people sometimes ask, they talk to me, maybe there's a better way to go about this. What's the best way to get more people to understand Eretz Yisroel, that how important it is to live here? And that's what I always say. I say, like, this is what I'm doing is after the fact. What we need to be doing is changing the entire education system. We need to be much more Zionistic people. I mean, people are scared of that word, but it's yeshivas need to. The fact that yeshivas have, Parsha Shalach, somehow they'll find every single Dvar Torah to talk about, other than the main theme of the parsha, and and that's where everything's going wrong. There needs to be much more talk about that in the elementary schools. And I absolutely agree. If we can somehow start that now, in 20 years, all of Klal Yisroel will be living here. There's no question about it.
Yeah,
but
something that's just coming up in my mind as we're talking, like I've heard I've watched some of your videos, and like the kind of issues that, and I'm sure you've talked about this, but like the kind of issues that people are afraid of, like the chinuch and the parnasa and all of these things, I find it very ironic because like in America, it's like I see people, I have a sibling there, and I'm in touch with people there, and it seems like people are really struggling and they're choking under the burden of parnasa there and paying for school and tuition, and these things are like, I mean, you hear it in like tens of thousands of dollars to put your kids through school. And here, I don't know how much you pay monthly for your kids, but it's like what, 60 shekels for gan and a month, and like and 100 shekels or something for Beis Yaakov. I'm saying, whoa, it adds up to like, oh my God, like 1,200 shekels a year. You know what I'm saying?
For everything you don't make here, you don't pay to the school, so you end up
right. I just and I've talked about that with friends here. It's just like it's. I don't know. I never lived in America, but it's like it's pretty good here. It's not just pretty good. It's like awesome here. It's like amazing here. It's like I don't even get the havam. Like why would you like stress out so bad? But another thing that comes up, I mentioned I do this bitachon podcast, and
Eretz Yisrael and Bitachon it's one of the same thing.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's mamash the same thing. Rabbi Haber, Rav Yaakov Haber, so he's the publisher of Mosaica, and he's a Rav here in a shul called KSY, Kilas Shiftei Yishurim, and I've really connected to him, and he tells a story. He's a Talmud of Rav Scheinberg, Rav Chaim Pinchas Scheinberg. He was very close to him. And he told him Maisa that I mean this is actually quite an amazing story, because Rav Yaakov Haber, when he was a Rav originally in Buffalo, and then he moved to Muncie. He was a Rav in Muncie, and he was very high up in the OU, and he was very involved in a lot of AJOP, like tons of communal stuff and helping Klal Yisroel. And at some point he decided, and his kids were not young when he made the decision, that he wants to move to Eretz Yisrael. It was like his guts were like, I must live in Eretz Yisrael. Which I'm curious to know what, like, I don't know the background behind that, but he said the story that he discussed it with everybody. Like, he discussed it with all of his friends, Rabbanim, all kinds of people in America. And they're like, no, you can't do that. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, you have a whole life here. Your kids are here. You can't do that. So he came to Eretz Yisrael on a pilot trip, and he came and he asked his friends here in Eretz Yisrael and the Rabbanim, and I was expecting him to say, and they were all like, no, and they were all like, no. They were like, absolutely not. You can't do that. It's ridiculous. You can't just come to Eretz Yisrael. So anyways, like, it happened to be that Rav Scheinberg was not in Eretz Yisrael at that time. He was in, I think, South America or something, but it worked out that as Rabbi Haber was arriving back into JFK, Rav Scheinberg was flying through JFK, exactly the same time, and they had a meeting for like an hour. And he says to Rav Scheinberg, he's like, I really want to move to Eretz Yisrael, but I discussed it with people here, I discussed it with people in Eretz Yisrael, and B'derech HaTeva, it just doesn't make sense. Everyone's saying that it doesn't make sense to live in Eretz Yisrael. And Rav Scheinberg is like, what does Derech HaTeva have to do with it? What does Derech HaTeva have to do with it? And so I prefaced this story with bitachon, and I always talk. This is my topic, is bitachon, and bitachon. It's kind of like stepping out of Derech HaTeva, and it's a mitzvah. It's a mitzvah. We are obligated to have bitachon. We are obligated to step out of Derech HaTeva. We're obligated to have a relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashlech al Hashem Yehavcha, v'hu yechalkel lecha. Everyone's worried and everyone thinks about, how can I do it, or how can I make it work? B'derech HaTeva, hishtadlus, all these kinds of words. But Eretz Yisrael is a place of l'malam min HaTeva. Eretz Yisrael is a place of bitachon, of working on bitachon, of living with bitachon. Eretz Yisrael Hashem Elokecha b'meireshis hashana ad achar shana. It's like a different planet. It's like a different planet. Every time I go back to America, I don't know if you've had this experience, but every time I go back to America, I like look around at people and I feel like I'm an alien from a different planet, and I don't get it. I don't get it. I'm like, I'm just like, I don't get it. Why are you here? What are you guys doing here? I don't get it.
That's what everyone tells me whenever they go back. They always say the same. Baruch Hashem, I've never been back to
really
to America since I came.
Wow.
But,
how long have you been here?
Almost 4 years now. Well, going on 4 years. And my wife's been back a few times, and friends who have gone back, and they all say the same thing. They say they walk into America, they feel so like an alien. It's just like it's a different world. They feel so uncomfortable, and they're just like counting the seconds to get back. It's I've never experienced it, but I understand what you're talking about. Yeah, and this whole thing with bitachon, that's, people, all of the reasons that people don't want to move to Eretz Yisrael, parnosa, it's very complicated, it's not as simple. Exactly, because the system here is set up that you have to trust in Hashem significantly more. It's just the way it is. So, and
you have significantly more hashgacha pratus because of it.
Yeah,
because of it. And it's like, I once had a conversation with somebody who ended up moving to Eretz Yisrael. He's still here. He had like a crazy story his first year. He was supposed to have a job somewhere. It didn't work out. He ended up in Ramat Beit Shemesh. Whatever. It's a whole balagan story. But I told him before he came, and I say this to you guys, if you have bitachon, if you have real bitachon, you're going to make it here. It's not going to look like what you think. If I would have lived in America, I know that I would have. Okay, people know my singing. I don't want to sound like a braggart, but people know.
Right.
People know my music, etc. But I would have been. I'm not rich. I probably would have been rich. I would have done a lot more performances. I would be more famous. Whatever. I don't care about fame. I really, honestly, don't care about money. But to come to Eretz Yisrael, it's important to know. It's like, it's not going to be the way that you think. Your kids will not get the type of chinuch that an American thinks your kids should get. You will not know how you're going to have your parnasa. It will not be smooth per se at times, maybe many times, but it will always work out. That's how bitachon is. That's my experience with bitachon. It will always work out. Hashem will always show you that He's there. It might take a month for Him. You might be choking for a month, but it will open up. That's always been my experience. As I said, I've been here since 2000. That's 24 years, and it's amazing to me. It's like, it's just like you're living with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You live with Hashem. It's like Rav Shamar said, Derech HaTeva has nothing to do with it, and it's like, why would anybody want to live anywhere else?
It's a mentality. It's the American mentality. It draws you in, it sucks you in. It's a really.
Well,
it's,
I
it's
think
a really
you know what I
big
think
challenge.
it is. I think it's like I know I'm human. You know, everyone. I talk about bitachon in my shiurim. I talk about bitachon with hishtadlus. I talk about bitachon without hishtadlus, which is the sheet of the Alter and the Vardik. And I'm not holding on that level, but there's some in between. And we like to have control. We like bitachon with hishtadlus because it's like, yeah, I'm going to do maximum hishtadlus, and then Hashem's going to do his thing, and together it's going to be like a partnership. Like, that's nice. That's maybe true, if you know. But there's like a deeper thing. Like, actually, Hashem's in charge of my life. Actually, I just had a conversation with somebody last week who's a big mover and shaker in the Jewish world. I don't want to say who the person is. And he's been shown over and over again that all the ishtadlus that he does, it doesn't work. And then the thing that he didn't do ishtadlus with, it did work. And it's like, well, why do I have to live in this place where like I'm like trying to squeeze out of the world enough money for tuition? Sorry to come back to that, but like enough money for tuition.
It's the biggest expense.
It's like I could live with HaKadosh Baruch Hu and live with bitachon and live in Eretz Yisrael, and this is the place where we get to work on it. It's like a different world.
It's a bitachon training ground. That's what it is.
Totally.
Yeah, I'll just tell you, like, I just have to say this because it's literally every single bit of my life here so far has been completely what you're describing. A lot of people that even want to move to Eretz Yisrael, want to make Aliyah, you know, a lot of them will say, I'm just figuring things out. I want to set up a parnasa. I want to set myself up there. So I know when I come, I'm going to be, things are going to go smoothly. That's kind of what I thought. And I was a plumber in America. I was a plumber for my whole life. I had a business there. I was doing very well for my standards, which, and I had everything set up. I bought magnets and business cards and stickers, and I bought a van before I even came here. I had every single bit of my parnasa set up. And people were even telling me, yeah, you're going to have an easy time in Eretz Yisrael because you're a plumber, you work with your hands, you're going to be fine, you'll hit the ground running, and that was the plan. I'm like, yeah, I didn't even, no sweat. It's just all going to pan out because I'm a plumber. Like this, it's a simple parnasa. Nothing worked out the way it was supposed to work out. I'm not a plumber anymore. My career changed like 5 times since I came here. And even till today, I'm still struggling financially, like so many people here. And, I keep I used to at least, I still am a little bit, but I'm getting over it. I keep, davening to Hashem to please make my parnasa easier and just go smoother and my ishtadlus should just pan out. And
you should daven to Hashem that your parnasa should be not smooth and not easy, so that you can keep davening to him and he can keep helping you. But yeah,
so that's it, and it's true. So I keep crying out to Hashem. I need it to be easier. I need it to be smoother. But what I'm seeing, and this has been happening for like almost 4 years now, is just like I've never been since I got here in America. I've always been able to make good parnasa, but ever since I got here, I can never seem to make enough parnasa myself. But every single month, when I have like my payment, my credit card payment, my mortgage, and like every single month, I'm like getting to the end of the month, I'm like, how am I going to pay this bill? And every single month,
it works out.
Money comes in from the weirdest places.
Welcome to Eretz Yisrael, Michal.
And none of it is from my parnasa. And I keep saying, no, okay, this month it worked out, Baruch Hashem, but like I have to get my act together. I have to advertise more. I have to do this. I have to do that. And every single month, we're talking about like whatever 30, 40 months, whatever it's been, And I don't know if the math is off, but forgive me.
Well, 12 times 4 is about 48.
Whatever. It's not bad. It's just every single month. They just somehow money comes in from places that it's not my business. That's not my parnasa. And people, so for anyone who's thinking to themselves, yeah, once I get my my business.
That sounds very irresponsible. That sounds very irresponsible. What do you mean I have to do it? I have to, I have kids. I have like a family. I have to. My kids are a little older. My oldest is 21. My son, my daughter is 19. I'm saying, I have to get it together. I have to, you want to marry off your kids. It's expensive here in Eretz Yisrael. Marrying off the kids is expensive. You want a really good bacher, you have to pay a lot. You got to buy them an apartment. But where's it going to come from? And bitachon is bitachon is bitachon. For HaKadosh Baruch Hu, $1,000 or $10,000 or $100,000, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's a drop in the bucket for the Rebbeinu Shalom.
Yeah, I think the advice that we're putting out here is for anyone who has, with Hashem's help, reached the point of understanding they should move to Eretz Yisrael. Don't do your shtadlis. Have something basic set up,
but really,
it's not gonna
jump in.
Just jump in. It's not gonna help anyway.
Just jump. Kadosh Baruch Hu. And I think and it's like, if you are like committed, it's like a commitment. It's like, I remember it was May of 2014. Like, I was struggling with the idea of solvency, like meaning not worrying about debts, but just like being aware of how much money I need and being on top of making sure I'm making that amount. And I didn't understand. Like, I'm a musician. Like, I'm an artist, so it's like, it's not consistent. It's not. That's just the nature. Like, I don't know when I'm gonna have a wedding or a concert or today you can't even sell CDs, but that's a different story. But I don't know exactly when things. Okay, acapella. I do have a lot of acapella. So there's certain things that are consistent, but it's not consistent. That's the nature of the beast. That's the nature of my parnasa. And it's like, but I kind of made a deal with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Like, if I start getting clear on my money, like, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and be committed to like doing whatever it takes, like, but you got to send it, because like and that's what happened. It was like I made this commitment. I made a kind of deal with HaKadosh Baruch Hu that like, I'm on top of I'm being responsible, meet CD, so like, you got to send it. And my experience is exactly the same as yours, where like, doesn't necessarily come from what I put in ishtadlus with, or the thing I expected it to. It just can suddenly appear from somewhere else. And that sounds ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? It sounds scary. It's like, what am I doing? I'm going to put myself in Hashem's hands? Like, what if he says no?
It's very scary, yeah.
What if he says no? But that's it. That's what it looks like here. That's how it works here. And it's like, it's like you're in a different, you are an alien. We are aliens. We're aliens. We're like on a different planet, because we're living in a space that's a bitachon. That's right.
And when the Torah just keeps emphasizing again and again and again the importance of living in Eretz Yisrael and how big of a deal it is. People nowadays are like, yeah, okay, that was back then, but nowadays you see there's challenge. Besides the fact that like, as your great grandparents, the challenges right now are nothing compared to ever. There's no real challenges here, but even the challenges that there are, that people are like, oh, these are the reasons I can't come to Israel. That's why you should become to Israel.
Right.
Every reason you think you shouldn't come to Israel is exactly is the essence of Eretz Yisrael. It's all about bitachon,
right. And
you see that in the Torah, and that's Hashem every time just keeps talking about Eretz Yisrael, and he just keeps talking about just trust in me, and I take care of it. And every other land is that's someone else.
What you're saying is reminding me, it was making me think of like Shemitah. It's like a great example. The mitzvah of Shemitah, the Alter of Navarre talks about it in Madregas Adam. I'm a Yeshiva Farakwe boy, so we're officially or unofficially Navardic. And so he talks about Shemitah in terms of the fact that, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, don't do anything for a year. Don't do anything for a year in a society that's completely supported by the agriculture. There's no importing from Brazil. There's no importing from, I'm saying, what you have is what you have. If you don't plant, you don't reap, you don't have food. An entire country. Like, it's an insane, I mean, if you think about it, the mitzvah of Shemitah is absolutely insane.
Right.
But the entire purpose of the mitzvah, as the Alter talks about, as the Psukim say, is tzivisi brachasi. If you trust me, and he says, like, you could put away a sixth of your crops each year, and you're like, okay, I'm not going to eat to my full. You know, like a Yosef shtick. And then you'll have for the 7th year. But that guy's actually not going to get brachas, he says. You won't get triple blessings in the 6th year if you put away to, I want to keep the mitzvah right, so I'm going to put away a little bit, and it's going to work out. I'll have enough for the 7th year. Then you don't get the extra blessings. It's like, no, it's like, don't do anything. Don't try extra. Don't try so hard. Like, that's the mitzvah of Shemitah, and that's a mitzvah of living in Eretz Yisrael. That's what it looks like. It's like, this is where you, the rubber hits the pavement. This is where you gotta work on bitachon. You gotta be real. You have to have a real relationship with Hashem, and I think that's terrifying. Right?
It's true. Yeah.
It's like you're leaning back and someone's supposed to catch you. His name is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and you can't see him, but he does.
When Klal Yisroel was in the midbar, they were, Hashem was providing them with the mun. A big part of why they didn't want to come into Eretz Yisrael, as the Mefarshim explained, is because they understood that in Eretz Yisrael they're going to have to actually start working and trying to, provide for themselves a little bit. And after you are supported by Hashem for so long, you don't want to go back to having to take care of yourself, And I think that in Eretz Yisrael, when you first come here, it's very, very challenging because, like you're saying, you're so nervous. But I think at the end of the day, and I'm seeing it myself, even just the few years that I'm here, with each passing day, and I think people that have been here for a long time will all agree that it's like after a while it starts getting a little less scary, and you start realizing how Hashem is just taking care of you every step of the way, and eventually that difficulty, that challenge of never knowing where your next paycheck is going to come from for some people, it starts actually becoming a very enjoyable thing, sort of like the Jews in the midbar, that like just you feel such a strong connection with your Father in heaven that, like, by
the way, there are people who have like regular paychecks that they make money everyone, not just like the creatives like me and you.
We're making it sound like there are people that have paychecks, but even the people with paychecks, it's still different. The essence is different here. It's different here. I actually saw this when I came to Eretz Yisrael. I thought it was very funny because when I first came here, I was asking a lot of people, "What do you do for a living?" In America, whenever, that's a normal thing. You start a conversation, what do you do for a living? And in America, the answer is always like I would say, I'm a plumber. I'm an electrician. I'm a lawyer. I'm a doctor. Here, I found as soon as I came here, I was asking people what they do for a living. And I found, okay, there were a few people that had an answer. But most people seem to like not know how to answer the question. Like, I kind of do this. I work for I'm an accountant, but it's just a small part-time job. I kind of make my living in random places, and I didn't understand what was happening because I'm like, why can't anyone just like
answer the question?
Like, what do you do for a living? Why is this so complicated? Now, I'm the same thing. Like, I do video now, but even up until now, and even now in a certain sense, like, what do you do for a living? Like, I can tell you like what I kind of try to do to make a living, but how I really make a living, I can't really answer the question. And I think that that's what it is. It's like it's different here. It's different here. That's just like, what do you do for a living? I kind of just trust in Hashem. That's like the longer you're here, that just kind of becomes the answer. And it's hard to explain it, but, like you said, I mean, don't one should get too scared. There are ways to have a regular job here, but overall, I think that's the core of that answer that I think a lot of people acknowledge, that there's so many places their money comes from. It's not the same answer as in America.
And I'm thinking, as you're speaking also, it's like a mashal for it is like the experience that we had before Pesach where Iran shot those 300 missiles and ballistic and drones, etc.
All the good fireworks that we experience all the time.
Yeah. But it's like there's like a fear. There's like oh my God, they're like going to shoot at us. This is Iran. This is not. And they're shooting from there. It's like this is like the Medrash that says that Paras is going to blow up the world. You know what I'm saying? Like this is but it was just like over as fast as it started. Like it just is like, yeah, we shot it out of the sky. Yeah, we hit 99%, and even the ones that got here, it was like, and then you get everyone's sending around this thing from the statistician who is like, it's not like actually possible statistically that you could shoot out 99%. It's just not possible. It was like as big of a nace as Kriyas Yamsuf. It was like just ridiculous. And then it's like, oh, that's like my parnasa every month. Oh, where's it going to come from? Oh, but it just always works out. It just, but every time. And so, and it's also interesting you mentioned the Mun, because like they had, it's hard to understand it because it happened every single day. They had the Mun and it fell every single day. And for the tzaddikim, it was right next to their tents and whatever. And some other people, they had to look for it, whatever. But they still had a sense. I've seen them before, right? They were worried. It's not going to fall today. It's not going to fall. The Mun's not going to show up. And that's like, wait, that's me. I've been here, married, Baruch Hashem, for 23 years, living in Eretz Yisrael for 24 years. And every single month, it shows up. I'm still nervous. But it gets better, like I said. It gets better.
It's very, very hard to change human nature.
Yeah.
You're a songwriter, a singer. So I'm just curious to know, how does Eretz Yisrael impact your music?
That comes to mind is I put out a song about a year ago called Yerushalayim, and first of all I got a bracha from the Yanuka. Yanuka is big tzaddik in Rishon LeZion, interesting person, also musical person, and huge Talmud Chacham, unbelievable. And so I got a bracha from him, and I started making up lots of songs. But one of the things that I did was I went out to the hills near Beit Shemesh. There's like, I don't know if you've gotten out to the hills and just go hiking or biking. It's like really
about like the Torah forest or whatever.
Oh, everything around here, everything. And no, you just go like if you drive up a little bit towards Beitar, there's like spots you can turn left, turn right.
Israel is just filled with gorgeous
like,
hills. Yeah.
Originally, before I was when I was young, I grew up actually until the age of 5. Besides for that year and a half, besides for those 9 months, I lived in Ellenville in upstate New York. So I was like I grew up like with a country boy vibe feeling. And we went every summer, and my parents still go every summer to the Catskills. And, but there's like, I love nature. I love going out in nature, and like there's all these beautiful places. My Bitachon podcast, I film in the hills. Like the background is always just pretty spots, right near Beit Shemesh. I always say, come to Eretz Yisrael, I'll give you a tour of the hills.
Living in Eretz Yisrael is like, it's like you get to, it's like living in the city and in the countryside at the same time. You could drive 15 minutes and be either at the ocean. Not even 15.
I'm saying you can, right here, right in next to Gimel, there's like awesome hills with like ancient mikvahs.
Right out the window.
There's like ancient mikvahs, and like it's just awesome. Whatever. There's so much cool things. But anyway, so there's a place called Churvat Chanut, which is a little bit up the hill, like almost like halfway between Ramat Beit Shemesh and Beitar, and it's just like a beautiful valley. And I was just sitting there with my guitar, and I brought a chumash or Tanakh, whatever, with like psukim to just like open up, and I was just like, it's pretty, so pretty. It's just like, I look at the mountains, and I'm just like, sometimes I just go out there and it's just so pretty. And after came the song, Birushalayim, 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 Ishtachavu Lashem, Me'ar HaKodesh, Me'ar HaKodesh, Birushalayim. And and then so that song came out. I'm like, wow, it was like really good. I'm like, wow, this is special.
Just happened right there.
It just happened. And then I ended up filming it in Yerushalayim, of course, and actually got a little bit with the Yanuka. I taught him the song. He played it a little bit, and but it's like the inspiration of Eretz Yisrael, just like where it's like overflowing. It's just like. It's just in everything.
It's a hard thing to describe. It's a hard thing. it really is a land that I think it makes you wiser. And I know, obviously it makes you wiser. Your Torah is better, and it's, I think it affects every single part of your spirituality. It just upgrades.
It's like, it's easy to just coast, to be a frum Jew and coast, and do everything you're supposed to do, and learn, and work, and provide for your family, and tuition, and you know, Hashem sends tuition, even, you know, Hashem sends parnas even in Chutz La'aretz. But it takes like a deeper awareness. It's like the whole entire Torah, like you said, hundreds of psukim, like the whole Torah is like Lech Lecha. It's like Moshe Rabbeinu. It's like, I wish I could just be in Eretz Yisrael. Like, the whole Torah is like getting to Eretz Yisrael. Klal Yisroel is getting to Eretz Yisrael. It's like, let's go. This is what we're supposed to feel. This is the 5 books of Moses, man. This is the whole story. This is what it's all about. This is what Yiddishkeit is. It's like, get to Eretz Yisrael. Get to Eretz Yisrael.
When people ask sometimes, you know, like, do I have a good book to, you know, my best recommendation for something about Eretz Yisrael, good chizuk, and like, I can list you a couple of books, but the best for sure is the Chumash. It's funny. This is like, there was such a lesson to myself. I didn't even realize it myself. Even after I moved, I didn't realize it. About a year ago, I had a art scroll Chumash. It's in shul, and I said, you know what? I'm going to make it my mission. I'm going to highlight every single pasuk that talks about Eretz Yisrael or hints to Eretz Yisrael, anything about Eretz Yisrael, and maybe I'm going to like write a little, you know, like maybe like a little pamphlet or something for myself or anyone who wants, like all the places where it talks about Eretz Yisrael throughout at least the Chumash. Maybe we'll get to Tanakh, this and that, the rest of Nach, and maybe try to bring some pirushim on these psukim. And so I take a highlighter and I start. So I wish I had the Chumash already. I started with highlight. So then I'm like, okay, there's so many things to highlight.
Bracious. You don't even have to go anywhere. The first pasuk, the first Rashi.
So I switched. I said, you know what? Okay, it's going to take too long to highlight psukim. What I'll do is I'll just highlight the page number on top, like the full page that talks, because clearly there's a lot. The next thing I know, I'm like 20 pages in. Every single page is highlighted. I said, okay, you know what? That's what the Chumash is. It's just a Musar sefer.
But it's amazing. It's like something can be right in front of you.
Yeah.
And you cannot see it.
Yeah.
You cannot see it. There's a famous song. I didn't write it. I wish I did. Right? Listen to the words, okay? Because you could also hear a song and not notice what it says. This is a medrash in Yalkut Shemaini in Yeshaya Perek Samech. So when Mashiach, when he comes, al gag Beis Hamikdash, he stands on the roof of the Beis Hamikdash. Mashmi'ah lehem liYisrael v'omer, and he makes heard to the people, to the Klal Yisroel, and he says, Anovim, O humble ones, higia zman geulaschem, the time of redemption is come. If you don't believe me, Re'uba Irish Shezorach, the word is Zorach, in the song he sings it Shezoreach, but it's Shezorach, and it's the pasuk, Kumi Iri Kiva Orech, Uchvod Hashem Alayich Zorach, it's past tense. So many kashas on the measures. It's like, he's standing on the Beis Hamikdash, Mashiach, it's the time, and he says, it's time. And if you don't believe me, okay, I'm standing on the Beis Hamikdash, if you don't believe me, see the light that shined, past tense. Or shone. I don't know how you say shine. Shone. Right? So it's like what's happening? You know, what's happening in the medrash? Like, what's going on? We all know the song. We're singing it. Mashiach, we want Mashiach, 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 right? So I think the pshat of the medrash is that you could have it right in front of you. It's already built. You could have a Beis Hamikdash. Mashiach is standing on the roof of the Beis Hamikdash. He's shouting to the world, screaming from the rooftop, literally. And everyone's just like, huh? Huh? What? Like, you could have 7 million Jews in Eretz Yisrael.
Yeah.
And be like, huh? Kibbutz Goliath?
Waiting for Mashiach, man.
What are you talking about? Oh, no. This is just as much Golus, as someone said to me in the airport once. There's just as much Golus in Eretz Yisrael as in Chutz La'aretz. Like, No, that's not true. There's not just as much Gullus. No, it's just not true. It's like it could be right in front of you, and it's Ru'u be'ori shezorach. It's notice the light that shined, past tense. It's like you have to like notice that it's been like the light gets, like Chazal say, it's like the way that Mashiach comes is kima kima, like a little by a little. It's like the dawn, right? You don't notice that it's light yet when the dawn starts, when the sun starts to come up, but as it gets brighter and brighter before the sun crosses over the horizon, all of a sudden it's like really bright. But you didn't notice that it's getting lighter and lighter because your eyes adjusted quickly. So like you can be watching the Mashiach process occur and like, what do you mean? There could be like, I actually said this to my Rosh Yeshiva, Rabbi Per Zechron Livracha. He passed away recently. I spoke to him last year during a Asar Semi Tshuva, and I said, where it's right in front. Like I don't get it. It's like it's why. First, I said, then why does the Yeshivish world not hold Eretz Yisrael to be of value? And he's like, you want me to answer for the Yeshivish world? He's like, he didn't want to answer for the Yeshivish world, but it's like it's there. It's like it's going on. It's like Mashiach's happening. I don't know. I don't know about you, but like I noticed that Mashiach's happening.
Yeah.
And you could be like I said, you could be like, oh, this is what I said. This is what I want to say. I asked him. I said, the Tilumi world is going to build a Beis Hamikdash. The Haredi world is going to be saying it's usher to go onto Har Bayis. And they're going to be bringing Karbanis. And, I'm a Yeshivish guy. I'm a Haredi guy. Really. But I want to bring a carbon. If they're doing it, I want to do it. And he's like, because I had a feeling about this year being like a chashuv year. This is before anything happened. I had to, whatever. You can watch my Mashiach podcast if you want to know more about it. But I said, Rebbe, like I think they're going to be bringing a carbon Pesach this year. He's like, call me before Pesach. We'll talk about it. But it's the point is like it's happening. It's in front, and it's like you could be looking at it. You could be looking at a Beis Hamikdash built, and Mashiach can be standing on top. And you can just be like, he has to convince you by saying, Im ein atem ma'aminim, you don't believe it, but it's real. It's really happening already. It's like, it's real. You gotta be real.
Absolutely. I actually like your example you just gave before. Like you listen to a song, you could listen to a song your entire life, and you could sing the words with it, and you never once actually paid attention to the words in the song.
Right.
And and I see that's happened. Yeah, that happens with me all the time. Like every once in a while, someone will mention a verse from a song, and I'm like, I know that song. Like, they say that in that song, like, and then it's like, oh, you're right. That's like the chorus of the song, and it's like what you're saying, like 7 million Jews. If you would go to the Rambam or the Chafetz Chaim, anyone, because I mean it was more recent, like anyone up until 50 years ago, and you would tell them, you time travel. You say, I just came out of a time machine. And I just want to give you a breakdown of what's going on. By us, we have 7 million Jews in Eretz Yisrael. Eretz Yisrael is the Torah center of the world. We're a military world power. And like you just go through everything that's happening here, and they'll be like, oh, so Mashiach came. What's it like? Like, no, Mashiach didn't come. Like, what do you mean Mashiach didn't come? Like, we don't have the Beis Hamikdash. Like, so build it. Like, but clearly Mashiach came. Like,
right. You're
describing every single thing that can only possibly happen when Mashiach comes. You see so many great tzaddikim have spoken or read in their Sfarim. I spoke about it one of my last videos about. I went through a whole thing from Rav Emden, and he lived in the mid 1700s or something like that. Is that correct?
Sounds right.
And right when he lived, and so many people from 1700s, 1800s. Where there was just a couple of Jews moving to Eretz Yisrael, like nothing, nothing. They were saying it's clear that it's time. Close. Yeah, it's clear. Like people start packing up. It's clear.
It's like people don't even know. Like 100 years ago, if you look at the census of how many Jews were in Eretz Yisrael in 1924, it was like 20,000 or 30,000. Something like Nothing. Like, nobody. That's not even how many people live in Beit Shemesh. You know what I'm saying? That's the entire Eretz Yisrael.
And we're not even going to get into the 10 plus wars, major wars that we've been in the past 70 years, and every single one in a miraculous would be an understatement. I mean, like we know stories of like the 6-day war. Like they say you couldn't find a pair of tefillin in Eretz Yisrael because like everybody started davening the next day. Like there's a miracle. But then you just forget. It's just like, okay, next. Waiting for Mashiach.
You get used to the man.
Everyone says, "I'll come when Mashiach comes." Like, no, you won't. No, you won't.
Right.
If the Beis HaMikdash is standing, you'll say it still hasn't come.
If the Mashiach is standing on the Beis HaMikdash and he's yelling, if you don't believe me, because you don't believe it still, even though it's mamish in front of you. No, the Mizrachnikim, they're the ones who built it, so it's...
it's AI. AI videos, it's all nonsense. It's true. It's really, and the Rambam says also, he says it clearly, like if you believe what he says, you don't have to believe what he says, but people say when Mashiach comes, people don't even know what Mashiach is. His explanation of Mashiach, he says there's nothing that's going to be different in the times of Mashiach other than basically peace.
Ein bein olam hazeh la'olam haba. Well, ein bein, yeah.
It's a Gemara. It's a Gemara. So,
El Shiben Malchus Bilvan.
Yeah. So I mean, what else do you want? The Gemara, the Rambam, right? So like you're saying, I'll come when Mashiach comes. What do you think is going to happen? Nothing's. This is the only thing difference between now and.
I know you've said this, but it irks people. It hurts us that it happened the way that Hashem brought it.
Yeah.
It's like, but the government.
Right. But the government,
No, Hashem, it can't be. Hashem wouldn't do it that way.
Right. In a lot of the Tzionische books that I read, Sfarim, whatever you want to call them, written by, Dati people, whatever. But, and a lot of them say the same thing. They're like, why do we think that we know how Mashiach is supposed to come? Like, this can't be the coming of Mashiach. We can't be that close because, like, the government and this and that and all the problems. Like, you know how Hashem was going to bring Mashiach? Like, don't worry so much about the details. Just look at the facts.
I like to quote the story of the Chavetz Chaim. First of all, he was saying that's why on Panovich in Bnei Brak. So it says the pasuk, Ubahar Tziyanti Apleta V'Haya Kodesh. It's a pasuk. It's emblazoned. It's carved into the building, because the Panovich Rav during World War II, he was like on his way to collect in America for the yeshiva, and then the Germans came into Panovich, and he was on the phone with his family, and they're like, "Get at it! Don't come back." And he had to decide: does he go to America or does he go to Eretz Yisrael? In that moment, and he knew the Chavetz Chaim, at the end of his life, he heard it. I saw this in an interview with the Panovich Rav from the 60s.
Wow.
He had heard from the Chavetz Chaim's son that the last thing that the Chavetz Chaim was saying before he died was that the dark clouds of destruction are coming over Europe, and he would quote this pasuk: "Bahar Tziyanti Apleta, Eretz Yisrael is going to be the safe place, V'Haya Kodesh." So I think I don't remember exactly who it was that asked him about this. I think it might have been Rabbi Chanan, but I'm not positive. It might have been Rabbi Zalman Meltzer. One of the Gedolim of that time said to the Chavetz Chaim, because he was always quoting this pasuk, he said, "What do you mean? But the secular are the ones who are doing the state. They're creating this thing." And this is before. This is in the 30s. The Chavetz Chaim died in the early 30s. And the Chavetz Chaim's response was, the pasuk says, V'Haya Kodesh, that it's a Vav HaMa'apeches, right? V'Haya means it was, but it changes it to be the future. It will be, because it's going to start off secular, and it's going to V'Haya Kodesh. It will be holy in the end. Chavetz Chaim said this. This is in the Chavetz Chaim al Torah. I don't remember the parsha, but it's at the very beginning of the parsha. I quoted it I read it out in my Mashiach podcast. But this is it. I didn't make that up. Chavetz Chaim said it.
Yeah.
He said that's what it's going to look like. And
but they don't teach this to the people. That's the problem. This is the Zionish stuff. We don't.
The more we talk about it, the more it gets heard. Yeah, you gotta make
As people sometimes reach out to me, and people that like my work, and they ask me, what can I do to help? When I want to help, and I just say, just keep spreading the message. People don't know. How much people don't know. People have no idea what so many tzaddikim have said about Eretz Yisrael, what so many tzaddikim have said about nowadays, what the Torah says. With how many people just Marva Sedra, they just read it. It's just like Tehillim, if you will. I mean, I don't want to say it that way, but it's just you just read it. You don't think about what you're saying, and people need to know.
Another
the truth.
thing, not just the davening, but like benching. I've been trying to have kavanah by benching. I heard that it's a school for parnasa.
Oh yeah, same here.
So I'm having kavanah. I'm like noticing what I'm saying. I'm noticing what I'm saying. The whole second bracha. It's the whole. Where's parnasa? We're talking about thank you Hashem for the parnasa, thank you for the food, and it's like thank you Hashem for the land of Eretz Yisrael, which is where we get parnasa. It's like we think that it's because we're in Chutz La'aretz that, or somebody's in Chutz La'aretz, that's where the parnasa is, that's where the big money is, whatever. But actually, the parnasa is from Eretz Yisrael. That's what we say every time we bench. Thank you Hashem for the land of Eretz Yisrael and its produce. The parnasa that we have is from Eretz Yisrael.
And it was written by Yoshua ben Nun when he entered Eretz Yisrael. He came into the land and he just needed to write a praise. And then
Haaretz ve'al hamazoin.
And then
thank you Hashem for Eretz Yisrael.
Yeah.
And for my parnasa, which Hashem gives me in Eretz Yisrael.
Just like most of davening, if you just pay attention to the words, it's mostly talking about Eretz Yisrael. It's truly unbelievable. Yeah, we got to keep spreading the message, and we got to let the people know, because people say the time is running out. I don't say the time is running out. This is the time. It's here. We're in it. I don't know what's running out, what's going to happen next, but this is the time we've been waiting for. There's no question about it. I think I believe that it's just like a scale. Hashem is just waiting till maybe 51%. I don't know what the majority is, but there's obviously a lot of mitzvahs that are connected to the majority of Klal Yisroel being in the land. There's a lot of prophecies speaking about majority of Klal Yisroel. So
it's historic.
Get involved.
Moving to Eretz Yisrael is historic. You are it's like you're the guy who tips the scale. It's like, because I'll talk about the way a person needs to think about the mitzvah that they do, the whole world is 50-50. Exactly what you're saying. Like, Eretz Yisrael is like, you could be the guy who now Ruach HaKodesh comes back to Klal Yisroel because of the guy who moves here. It's
the way I like to see it for myself, and what gives me chizuk is, people look at Tanakh as, the story. There's a lot of characters, Yosef and Yaakov and David HaMelech, and these are all big players, Pinchas, and like stories about individuals who did very significant things. And then even you see there's stories about groups of people, whether it's different groups of Klal Yisroel that did certain things. And we look at these as characters, and we look at ourselves like we're after Tanakh. We're like, whatever, that's the story of Klal Yisroel. Now we're just like, whatever, we just learn from it. But people understand we are a continuation of Tanakh. Tanakh starts with, right, Bereshis Noach is basically just a story of how Hashem created the world. Right? That's what it is. It's just like, and the Rashi, the first Rashi in the Torah says that. What's the purpose of Bereshis? Just to let you know that Hashem created the world, so that way when we live in Eretz Yisrael, the nations can't say anything, because the same God who created the world has the right to tell us where we get to live. So like it's unbelievable that that's how that is Bereshis right there. And then as soon as the first Jew comes into play, Avram, if you want to call him the first Jew, the first person who started doing the mitzvos and serving Hashem, Lech Lecha. Klal Yisrael's, the story of Klal Yisrael begins. Let's go to Eretz Yisrael, right? How does the entire Tanakh finish? It finishes with destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. Tanakh is finished.
Tanakh is just about
everything about Eretz Yisrael.
Coming back to Eretz Yisrael.
And we're as much part of Tanakh as anyone. Like, it's true, everything in between kind of was like that in between period, but now we're working towards that final third Beis Hamikdash, and here we are. We're doing it. We're pulling it off. It's I don't know who's going to get to build the actual Beis Hamikdash. I don't know who's going to be the official Mashiach.
Maybe
but
Itamar Ben-Gvir. He wants a shul on our base.
I'm with it.
I'm just like, why a shul? Why not just go straight for
if you're gonna
build something there, you might as well build the. Okay,
exactly. And people don't know a lot of things. People don't know that it's a mitzvah deraisa in the Torah, incumbent upon every single Jew in every single generation to build the Beis Hamikdash. It's one of the 613 commandments. It's not like we have to wait till Mashiach. It's a mitzvah that every single one of us should be doing. And as soon as we can, we should be doing it.
I'll tell you something that people don't know. My father-in-law, and he has a very good friend named Harold, and Harold was actually on the cover of Mishpacha magazine twice because he used to work for the Pentagon. He's he's an expert in Arab affairs. So my father-in-law and Harold were in 1968. They were young and they were going around, hanging out. I think Harold speaks like a fluent Arabic, and they went to Ramallah and they went here and they went there. You could go anywhere at that time because we won, And everywhere that they went, the Arabs said to them, "What's your trick?" Everywhere. What's your trick? The Arabs did not understand why we didn't knock down the mosque and build a Beis HaMikdash. They knew that that's what the Jews are going to do.
That's what we should have done.
No, but that's what I say. If we would do that today, there wouldn't be an uproar. It would just be like, yeah, what took you so long?
Yeah.
Like, that's what the Jews are supposed to do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. With Hashem's help, we'll overthrow the government and get it done, because that's realistically there's a lot of Jews here just waiting to do it. They're just ready to come onto the harbais with their hammers.
We can deconstruct that golden dome and everything and just put it somewhere else. Can we bring it to Mecca? It's the Saudi Arabians anyway are annoyed that people are going not to Mecca, so we'll bring it to Mecca and that's it. Based on Mikdash.
Down. So okay, Ari, just I guess just some finishing words. What's your final message to Klal Yisroel? Let them know. Let them know.
The final message I to sum up is have bitachon and just jump. Just jump in. This is the place. Eretz Yisrael.
Like Nachshon.
Yeah, just jump in, have bitachon, and know it's going to be hard. The first year is going to be mamish like the fires of Gehenna, and but bust it through. Just bust it through. And just nothing. There's nothing like Eretz Yisrael. There's nothing like it. It's like a different place. It's like another world. And you could be part of this world. So join us here in Eretz Yisrael.
Okay, shkayach Ari, shkayach for being here, and I hope with Hashem's help, some people will take some of the advice that you gave, that we talked about, and we should be zeicha to see the rebuilding of the Beis HaMikdash right now, mamish today, with Hashem's help.
Amen, for sure. Thanks for having me.
As always, please like, subscribe, and share our videos with others. And if you value the work we do here at Homebound and would like to help, please consider donating so that we can continue doing this holy work of bringing all of Klal Yisroel back to the Holy Land. To donate or to contact us, you can follow the link in the description below or visit our website at homeboundisrael.com.